No pause in this one. This is my experience. Yeah, all right. Hey guys, welcome back to Tell Your Story. My name is Nathan. Tonight, I wanted to talk about my own experience. So this one is unscripted. There's no pausing. We're talking about what is it like to go to rehab. So I guess to get started, if you're thinking about going to rehab, I automatically say yes. Make that decision. It's tough for anybody that's going through what an addict goes through. And personally, I am an alcoholic. And at one time, I was in a dark, dark place. The last night that I ever drank, I woke up the next morning in a gas station, asleep next to a dryer. I didn't know how I had gotten there. I don't know. Well, I do now, but I didn't at the time remember the night before or what happened. And I was in a super dark place because my worst vices had taken over the best parts of my life and I needed a change. So I asked for help. I went to my dad and was like, hey, I think I need some help. And he was like, well, we can go see a therapist. And I said yes. And that therapist gave me an option of going to medical detox, right? So I went to a hospital and they set up for me to go to a rehab in Columbus, Mississippi called the Pines and Katy Hill. I don't think anyone really wants to go to rehab. Rehab is, when you hear the term rehabilitation, it means, you are a lost cause, you're a statistic, and there's a lot of terrible terminology that comes around with that. And so a lot of people are afraid to go to a place that means you get therapy and you're being watched over. Well, while there are a lot of negatives floating around, I can tell you from a personal experience that it changed my life. So what is rehab? What exactly does it entail? There are all kinds of rehabs. I'm not going to list out all the different types, but I went to a 90-day program where you go into a facility, and in this facility there were lots of caretakers. There were people on staff that just sort of stayed there during the day, and then there were licensed professionals, therapists and counselors to sort of dig deep inside of here. And, what was that experience like? Personally, myself, I had never been to rehab before. And I'm also not somebody who's been in a lot of trouble. In my entire life, I've been to jail once, and it was for the DUI I got. Drinking. Yeah, again, drinking got me in the most trouble. So going to a place like this, I felt very vulnerable. I was around people that I had never met, and also around a lot of people that got into trouble. So it's true that when you do go to a rehab, you might be around some people that might have been or are in more trouble than you are, Maybe people that went down different roads. There are a lot of drug addicts in there, whereas I was an alcoholic. I'd never met somebody who had done hard drugs before. I didn't surround myself in my daily life with people, at least that I knew of, that were doing things like meth and cocaine, that kind of stuff. I drank alcohol, so I was around a lot of people that like to pop a beer and maybe have a glass of whiskey. In that rehab, a lot of people leave early. You can go there for 30, 60, or 90 days. And after my first 30 days, I just decided to stay. It was pretty rigorous. They would wake you up at a certain time in the morning. You had a plan every day. They planned out your day with a schedule. And what that schedule comprised of was classes, right? Not just any classes. It wasn't just like I was sitting around a table at an addicts meeting like NA or CA or the other one. In this group, you had a health class, like a general health class. You also had a class that talked to people about, job hunting. So they weren't just basing it on your addiction. They also based it on life skills, relationships. And they put me in a lot of hard situations. Not only did we have like group sessions, but we also had one-on-one with our own counselor. And this counselor dug pretty deep inside, man. She went in with questions about me and about my childhood and about where I was going, and really brought out of me something different. But I went into this experience willing, and maybe because I had lost everything. Addicts lose a lot while they're out there, drinking under a bridge. And I guess somewhere in me, I had hit a bottom that made me want to change. So if you go to a rehab, it might be scary in the beginning, but when you go there, be honest and open, because in a lot of these places, the professionals that are there have been to school to help with this kind of thing. And for a lot of people, therapy is enough. But for me, I needed that constant scheduling. I had a purpose every day, which was get up, make my bed, and then go to some of these courses that they had. Now, I stayed in that building for 3 months. That's a quarter of the year. So for a lot of people, they're like outside, family is outside of their friends. They have a life outside of those walls. So the really scary thing was being shut off from all of that. At first, it was scary because, walking in with those addicts and other people, I didn't know what to expect. And, later, I think I got comfortable with the idea that I was in a safe place. This was an environment where I didn't have any access to any of my worst vices. And, I had the chance to get some clarity of mind. I had a bed, I had food, and a lot of that stuff. And so I guess as the months progressed, I gained friendships. I talked to the men that were around me. I went to a men's only rehab. So this was like a place with 22 different men, all different backgrounds, man. And they shared some things that I'd never heard from other people. Some of those guys changed me, for life. And I met some people in there that I'm still friends with to this day that are still sober. Now, the odds are against us. The statistics say that like 1 out of a room of a bunch of people will stay sober. And the honest truth is that out of the, say 22 guys that were in there with me, I think 3 of us are sober today, and those 3 are still around. Now, I don't know. Was it a transformative experience? In some ways. In other ways, I think I just stayed sober for 90 days and had the clarity to not do it again when I got out of there. And I had a lot of reason not to. I didn't want to go back to being the person that I was, and I certainly just didn't want to feel physically like the way I felt when I drank. I don't know. People talk about, a transformative experience through getting sober, and I guess what I realized was they gave me the tools by introducing me to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and then they introduced me to a lot of tools that I could use personally to take care of myself. And I took those tools and I really took them to heart. So when I left that place, I surrounded myself with winners, people that stayed sober. I stayed busy in a program that they introduced me to. And, I stayed busy by giving myself a reason to stay sober every day, which was go to a meeting or, the friends that I now have that are trying to stay sober. Actually, most of my friends are addicts. So sobriety is a big part of their life. So when we feed off of each other, it's because we're, keeping each other accountable. I think the point of a rehab really is not necessarily to introduce you to like a religion or a program, but it's there to teach you the tools to keep yourself sober. I went in there for me. I think if you go in there for any other reason, you might fail. You might really fail. I think that rehab is scary and transformative in the fact that you are put in a safe place where you really can do some deep thinking about who you are and where you want to be. Do I recommend it? Not everybody needs rehab. It's not for everybody. But for me, like in here, the personal decision that I made to give up a little bit of my time and some of my life. I gave up 3 months of my life and put it in the hands of people that have been trained to help people like me. And I guess in that, I didn't have to worry so much. When you let go and you sort of just give in to this idea that some people are here to help you, in a place like that, it worked. I spent 90 days not worrying about anything. I just worried about the next 24 hours. And that was just doing the paperwork, writing things down, learning about being self-aware and like what's going on in here. I think the most important thing they did for me was they opened up a line of dialogue. As a dude, and I don't know how it is for you out there, but I'm not supposed to be weak. I'm not supposed to talk about my feelings. And I wasn't very good at communication. And that's what this place did for me. The Pines of Katy Hill of Mississippi really turned my life around. And to this day, I go back there every chance I get to talk to maybe the new guys that run through there, because places like this have turnover. Addicts are hard to keep in one area, and some people just aren't interested in diving deep into themselves. It's too painful. But if you can open up and maybe just give in to letting go of some of the painful things of your past, you can open yourself up to a brighter future. I think rehab is a wonderful thing. Would I do it again? 10 times over, I'd do it again. The life I live today is 100 times better than the life I lived before. Maybe not because I changed me personally. I just changed some of my habits and rituals every day, and they gave me the tools to do that. That's what rehab's like. So if you're out there and you're making that choice and you're thinking about going, you don't have anything to lose. Just go, Be safe, be well. That's all I've got for tonight. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Rehab! I'm not sure that's how I want to start that off.